And now, a useless sermon from our mayor, Stanley Booker.
I want to read a statement that I've prepared as I've watched what's happened mostly over the last week. And before we adjourn, something's really been said with me about this whole tent city process, and I think it's worth saying out loud. Making sausage is not pretty, but you end up with a pretty good breakfast. And I think what we've ended up with is a good thing for Lawton Fort Sill. More people have accepted help than had continually refused help than was imaginable just 2 weeks ago. If we'd not gone through this sausage making process, they'd still be out there in their situation. Instead, they're getting help. And collaboration is the winner. And the neighbors and the city are the winners. Nonprofits, including our faith-based groups, I don't want to leave anybody out. You're the best. And I appreciate all that you have done and must continue to do if we're going to get these individuals across the line to rehabilitation. You heard from the city manager earlier tonight about why the
Anti-transparency
timing on
rant
this
coming in
was what it
10.
was. And I asked him that question on purpose because I think it matters. And I want to build on it for a minute. Communication in the city has not always been good enough, but I want to be precise about what it means. We don't owe the public a play-by-play before every operational step the city takes. Reasonable people know that no city could function that way. And if you think it through, nobody actually wants a play-by-play on every operational thing. What we do owe people is a clear, timely explanation of our reasoning once decisions are made. And there, we've been slower than we should be. And I own that, and the council should own that as well. But I want to be honest about something else, because it's not just city government that struggles with this. It's all of us. Everyone in a leadership position in this community, whether that's an elected seat, a nonprofit, a pulpit, or a following on social media. Miscommunication in this town has been rampant on every side of this issue. Nobody gets to point fingers here without turning one back at yourself, myself included. Here's the part I want to spend a minute on because I think it matters more than people realize. When something gets shared publicly, a claim, a rumor, a piece of information nobody's confirmed yet, adding a disclaimer to it doesn't do what we think it does. Saying I've heard, or supposedly, or if this is true, feels responsible. It feels like we've covered ourselves. It isn't responsible, and it doesn't cover. There's real well-documented research on this, and if you want to look it up for yourself, just Google continued influence effect. Continued influence effect. It's one of the most replicated findings in psychology. Even after something false is corrected, and even when people remember seeing the correction, it keeps shaping what they believe. A retraction, at best, cuts that effect in half. Sometimes it does nothing at all. A disclaimer doesn't stop that from happening. If anything, the uncertainty in it is part of what makes the claim spread even faster in the first place. A disclaimer doesn't stop a rumor from spreading, and it doesn't stop it from inciting fear either. When that fear gets stirred up, even by something well-intentioned, even with a disclaimer attached, it's the people we're trying to help who feel it first. So when any of us, city leaders, nonprofit leaders, community voices with a real following, share something unverified, even carefully, even with the best of intentions, we are not protecting people from misinformation. We're often the ones spreading it. That's true for City Hall. That's true for me. That is true for anyone in this community who has enough of a platform to be believed. That's how false narrative gets built. Not by liars, but by good people who were a little too quick to share and a little too slow to verify. And it's not only unverified facts that do this, an accusation about someone's motives. Excuse me. Their honesty, an accusation about their honesty, whether a decision was made in good faith, spreads the same way. And it's even harder to correct, but you can't fact check a motive. I'll be honest, I've done that too. I've drawn conclusions about why somebody did something without really knowing, and said so confidently that I had any right to. And I don't think any of us here or in this community are innocent of that. So if we're going to hold ourselves to verifying facts before we speak, we should hold ourselves to the same standard before we accuse. And I'll say one more thing because it's true and it matters. The online platforms most of us use to share these things are not built to reward accuracy. They're built to reward reaction, shares, comments, and outrage. The more something stirs people up, the further it travels, whether or not it's true. There's an old saying that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets its boots on. Most people, myself included, credit that to Winston Churchill. Here's the thing, he never said it. Historians have chased that line for decades, and it doesn't trace back to him. And honestly, that might be the best example I could give you tonight. Even a quote about how fast a falsehood spreads is itself a falsehood that's been spreading for decades. That's how deep this runs, and that's exactly why it matters. All community leaders need to be more careful. Yes, all of us. This kind of misinformation is pulling us apart. And every leader's job should be pulling us back together, even when we disagree. I'm not saying this to scold anybody. I'm saying it because I think most of the people speaking up on this issue, on every side of it, are doing it because they care. That passion is real, and I don't want it to go away. The people who show up, who organize, who post at 11 at night because they're worried about someone they've never met. That's what makes this community capable of doing hard things well, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the people who poured themselves into this, and I mean that. So here's what I'd ask of this council and of every leader in this community, myself first. Before we speak, let's verify. Let's avoid accusations about motives. We're going to get things wrong sometimes anyway, because we're human. But let's not let that be an excuse to skip the verifying or to accuse first and check later. We owe that to each other. We owe that to the people we're trying to help, most of all, and we owe it to our bringing our community together. And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Hooten, Epps, Brown, Emery, Hampton, Uyghur.
Lo and behold, he was sick.